to the People's Sports Podcast. I am Mark Titus. She is Charlotte Wilder. We simply do not have time for pleasantries, Charlotte. We do not have time for small talk. This is an absolutely loaded show. I have a feeling this show is going to go for 3 hours. It is a show that you and I have both been very excited to do. And we don't have time for chit-chat. We simply do not have the time. We have to get into it. Tell the people what is going on today, we believe.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to be like, Mark, we got to get right into this, because my list alone could take like 4 hours. So today is the horse show. And I think
Is that the title of the show?
Yeah, it's the horse show. And a little thing I have to say about A-Rod and J-Lo and Ben Affleck. But that's basically the show,
okay.
right?
All right, well, let's get it out of the way. Let's get out of the stuff we definitely are not talking about before we get to the horses. Go ahead.
The two things that I definitely don't want to talk about is how everybody is mad at me on the internet about Tim Tebow and how...
Oh, no. What happened?
Okay, so I tweeted... I tweeted the most the thing that I thought would make people least mad. Like, I was going for sort of a send up of, you know how everybody, the minute Tebow signs with Jacksonville, everybody is like, which we talked about not wanting to talk about last week, which we're still not going to talk about. But I was like, the funniest thing to me is how everybody's taking this and turning it into like, this means this, or this says this about that. Like,
okay, hang on, I'm going to stop you because my mother has been visiting. She is now back in Indiana, but my mother came to visit this weekend. She showed up on Friday. She left. She was supposed to leave yesterday morning. Her flight got delayed. She took a red eye late last night. So I have been kind of off the internet the entire last 4 or 5 days. I have not seen the reaction to Tim Tebow. So please give me the backstory, because you're glossing over this. You're like, people are just going blah 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 blah. I don't know what the blah 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 is. Okay.
The blah 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 is that people are saying, you know, here's this guy who hasn't played in the NFL. You know, Field Yates at ESPN tweets out, you know, the last time Tebow played in the NFL was 3,065 days ago, or something, you know, something like that. Like, and people are saying, well, okay, so now you have guys who were in the draft or who weren't drafted, who were tight ends who deserve a shot, but Urban Meyer's just giving Tim Tebow a shot, and you know, talking about how all of the things with basically like anything bad that has ever happened in the NFL. Tebow is an example of like, if you're just a white guy who is friends with people, you get a chance to play. But then it turns out that there are people who are like, Tim Tebow was great. He should have played tight end. He didn't. And now he's going to. This is awesome. So I tweeted, Tim Tebow is proof that if you're Tim Tebow and you follow your dreams, you'll end up as a tight end on an NFL team after spending a few years in the Mets farm system, after failing as a quarterback for the Broncos, after winning the Heisman. Like, that to me was sort of like, this is what, you know, the sort of most a send up of the whole thing. And my mentions have just been an absolute disaster. People being like, what have you ever done with your life? Like, you're just jealous. Like, you call winning one playoff game a failed career. And I'm saying
yes, I do. He's a failed quarterback. He is not a good quarterback in the NFL. I mean, how is that? I don't understand how that.
And the only reason that I don't want to talk about this is because I got the funniest insult from a stranger in my DMs that I was like cry laughing for a good 10 minutes when I read this one. It's from this guy Gabriel, who doesn't have a picture in his bio, and the message is just sorry, your forehead is absolutely massive for that pea-sized brain behind it. Let some bangs down unless you're a balding ass bitch. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't even be mad about that. Like, that's just like that's the funniest 2 sentences I've heard in a long time.
Can I be honest with you? That was for me. I wrote that. I was hoping you would read it on the show. I had a bet with my buddy that if I sent you something, I could get you to read it on the show.
Now I'm like, wait a minute.
I'm very excited. It sounds like I took a Twitter hiatus at the perfect time. Maybe I don't need to come back to Twitter then. Maybe I'm just gonna like let the hiatus roll, because that sounds like an absolutely nauseating debate to be watching unfold on Twitter.com.
It's pretty awful. Yeah, it's like the least thing we want to talk about. But so it's funny you say that, because after I tweeted that, I didn't look for a few days. I was
it is very bizarre how people, I mean, I guess it kind of makes a lot of sense, but I don't know, how polarizing that guy is for reasons that aren't entirely clear. And the part of it that's confusing to me, Tim Tebow, and wanting to play tight end for the Jaguars is I guess I understand why Urban Meyer would want him around. I guess I understand. He's a good athlete, certainly. Like we would say, he's a great athlete. Like I would say, great athlete. I mean, if we're talking like strength and he can run, and I don't know, we watched him at Florida. The guy won a Heisman and 2 national titles. He's one of the greatest college football players of all time. So that part of it checks out. That like maybe let's kick the tires on this guy, give him a chance, see what he can do. I don't understand Tim Tebow's motivations. I have not understood this at all. I am basically the exact same age as Tim Tebow. We were in the same high school class. I remember when he was being recruited, and I remember watching him play high school football on television. I know this guy pretty well and watched him. Like I don't know how else to say it. That
right.
So I'm giving you that backstory to say that I'm at the position in my life where if the Jacksonville Jaguars called me and asked me to play tight end, I would be like, absolutely not. They're like, Mark, we want to offer you like a $4 million contract. I'd be like, God, no, no, please no. And that's the part that's confusing to me. Is like the people that are saying good for Tim, that he is not giving up on his dream. That he is sticking with this, and I guess I'm with you. Like, is this his dream to be the practice tight end of the Jacksonville Jaguars at age 34? That's his dream. Like what? I don't think that's his dream. The man won a Heisman and 2 national titles. I don't understand. So I don't get his motivations. I don't get his motivations, and I don't. That's the part that's been confusing to me. But no, I guess let the people on the internet argue, and I don't know. It's so stupid.
Right, like we could speculate, but like I don't know. I mean, also as a 32-year-old who gets out of bed and foam rolls her back every morning, I'm like, I don't know physically that doesn't hold a lot of interest for me. I'm also a girl who never played football.
Yeah, I'm by and large, by the way, a Tim Tebow fan. Like I think the guy is a good human being, and I think like as corny as he was kind of like JJ Watt before JJ Watt. Like he was like the guy that was like clapping really hard. Like, let's go, guys! And you're like, what a cornball. But at the same time, like who is he harming? So like let him be. Like I never really understood why people didn't like him. But at the same time, like I don't understand why he now wants to play professional football. Like it's all very confusing to me as to how we got here with this whole story. So I'm just gonna sit this one out, I think.
All right, so I'm gonna me too, because apparently the people are. Here's something though that I would like to briefly not talk about, which is so A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, Jennifer Lopez, they break up. Jennifer Lopez apparently went on a week-long vacation with her ex, Ben Affleck, which I am just thrilled about. And so Page Six said on Tuesday, when asked in Miami how he felt about his ex-fiancée Jennifer Lopez going on vacation with her old flame Ben Affleck, Rodriguez responded, "Go Yankees."
Wow. So he's not mad. He responded, "I'm definitely not mad."
No, he's not mad at all.
I'm not fazed by this at all. I'm actually, yeah.
Isn't that incredible? And so like, obviously I had to tweet something about this. And after I tweeted about this and Tebow, I was like, I'm going to step away from the internet for a second. But someone responded and said, do you think that the noted Red Sox fan is looking at this from a different angle, taking his wife back from Alex Rodriguez instead of dating a Bronx woman at the peak of the rivalry? And I was like, oh my God, Ben's been playing the long game this whole time.
Yes. All right, let's go with that. Let's go with that. Ben's playing the long game. Ben is definitely not just like meandering through life and just like
with a back tattoo, sitting on the beach, gazing into nothing.
Just kind of like throwing a lot of darts at the dartboard, seeing what sticks. Just like sliding into DMs left and right and seeing what hits, and then like, yeah, I guess I'll date her now. And
look, as someone who once got into a bar because the bartender thought you were Ben Affleck, you should take a little bit more interest in this, Mark.
I still get told I look like Ben Affleck, even as I've grown my hair out. And
we should give J-Lo a call.
Yeah, maybe I should. I don't.
I'm kidding.
And as the years go by, being told I look like Ben Affleck becomes less and less of a compliment. Like at first I was like, okay, I'll take it. I mean, he's I guess some people think he's handsome, so I'll take it. And then now like people are like, hey, you kind of look like Ben Affleck, and I'm like, are we sure?
You're like in the picture where he's dropping his packages with his Dunkin' Donuts, or in the one where he's staring off into the distance in the beach looking really sad? Which one?
Right. Like, can we go back to people saying I look like Marc Gasol? I'd rather have that at this point. I'd rather be told I look like Marc Gasol than Ben Affleck at this point in my life. Let's not talk about that though. You should be, by the way, you should be the A-Rod. We should just brand you like the A-Rod relationship expert between Aaron Rodgers and Alex Rodriguez, you know? Like, look at you, just like
Oh
any
my God, you
A-Rod.
just blew my mind.
Yeah, any A-Rod at all, you're
That's huge. That's huge.
There you go.
If there is a celebrity with A and then Rod in his name, like, I'm on it. We'll think of more. But anyway, is there anything you don't want to talk about before we do our horse show?
I saw this headline that a college pitcher's stolen prosthetic arm was found at a South Dakota recycling center. I don't want to talk about that. He had his prosthetic arm stolen. It was not his throwing arm, for clarity. He's a right-handed pitcher. He was born without a left arm.
That's the worst thing I have ever.
Yeah.
Who would do that?
I imagine. I didn't really read the story, obviously. I mean, come on.
Yeah, who does?
I saw the
You're not a loser.
Yeah, the thing about headlines like that too is like you don't want to read the story. It's just better to read the headline and just have an idea of what goes on. But I had gathered from context clues of people chattering about it. That he was born his left arm below the elbow. He did not have a left arm below the elbow, and he has prosthetic. So he wears the prosthetic to, like, I guess, have the glove on his hand,
Right.
and so he can pitch whatever. But my guess is they didn't steal the arm. I gotta see the best in people, Charlotte. So I'm gonna assume that they didn't this was not a heist situation where they were trying to steal the arm. They were. The arm was like in the car or something, and they just like took everything, or you know. Or is it
That's
like a
much
backpack?
more charitable place to go first before
It was in a duffel bag with a PS5, and they just like grabbed it all together. And the kid's like, "I want my arm back. You can have the PS5." Like, that's what I want to assume that. I don't.
Or
know,
like it was
like,
a total accident. It got like it somehow got caught. Yeah, I
don't want to
to
think.
Right.
I cannot bring myself to believe that this was a situation where like the rival team got together and was like, "We must stop this guy. Let's."
That's
steal
immediately where my head went.
Yeah, I can't believe that, but it probably, that's probably what it was.
That's actually a weird reversal for us because normally I'm the one who's like, "No, everything's great."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Life is suffering."
That is true. That is a nice little. We keep people on their toes just when you think we're predictable.
When you think we're gonna zig, we zag.
I also don't want to talk about the NFL schedule release. I definitely don't want to spend the next 4 hours fleshing out how many games the LA Rams are going to win based on their schedule. And what do you have them in week 7? Do you have that as a win or a loss? Do you have that as a?
I have it as a tie.
How do you see the Bears playing out? You really think they're going to win 4 in a row? I don't see that. I can't see it.
I am gonna be honest. I did not know that the schedule came out.
Well, just wait, because you're about to hear nothing but like meathead sports talk guys just being like, "I think this is favorable. I think the Dolphins have a favorable draw. I think
Next week
when
we'll
we
do
look at that division, I think the Dolphins. I think they definitely have what it takes to go 9-7. Although they're playing 17 games this year, right? Isn't that?
Yeah,
isn't that true?
I mean, that's a lot of games. And
I
then
don't
when
like
you
that.
factor in all the salary cap stuff, and then like who the luxury tax, and then and then the numbers of it all, like.
I don't like 17 games, by the way.
I don't either.
That's very confusing. That's going to shake up, like, I don't know, my understanding of everything. I want to see teams try to go 8-8. Isn't that the Jeff Fisher special that he always went 8-8?
7-9.
I can't see. I don't want guys to be. I don't know. 9-8.
As a Jeff
just
Fisher
doesn't do it.
apologist, first of all, I take that's really offensive.
How 8-8's pretty good. 8-8 is.
I think have I said this before on this podcast, but the most awkward question, besides asking Mike Vrabel why he said he'd cut off his dick to win a Super Bowl, the most awkward question that I've had to ask a coach is when I had to ask Jeff Fisher if he'd seen all the memes and the jokes about him going 7-9 or 8-8.
Yeah.
His face, it was like breaking a broken man. I was like, I'm so sorry that he was like, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him. I've seen them.
And I was like, oh, God, let's change the subject then.
My experience with that was asking Mick Cronin, who's the UCLA basketball coach. When he got the job, he was like their 12th choice. It was a very public coaching search in the sense that UCLA was throwing out names of guys they wanted to hire. Those guys kept saying no. Then they tried to hire Jamie Dixon from TCU. He couldn't get out of his contract. Long story short, like it was like they ended up hiring Mick Cronin, and I thought it was kind of funny because I'm like, I wonder how Mick Cronin feels like knowing publicly that he was not even close to their first choice.
Did you ask him?
Yeah, I asked him about it. I was like, Coach, a lot of people he's like, yeah, I understand. He's like, I got the job. Like he kind of had the attitude of like, it doesn't matter how I got here. I have the prettiest girl at the dance, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter.
Right. Like, sorry that she like asked 12 other people before you, but like,
it doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm taking her home tonight. That's all
We're
I know.
waltzing, baby.
Yeah, that's all I know.
Going to the big dance. That's a college basketball joke. Mark,
one other thing that I don't want to talk about. Yeah, I heard it. I heard it, Charlotte. Charlotte is the stand-up comedian. That says the joke. No one laughs. And you're like, guys, I gotta explain that one. I'm gonna.
No, I just say it again. I say it 3 times, and then they're crickets, and I'm like, get it? And everyone's like, yeah, no, we get it. We just hate it.
Yeah, that was a good stand-up comedian bit for you. Is you say "get it" at the end of every joke. I bet that would play really well.
I mean, next time I go to an open mic, I had a whole bit. I was working on a bit. I was talking to my mom on the phone the other day, and I really got on a roll. And I was like, this should be a bit.
What would be your topic if you had to do like a type 5 on something?
I can't see. That's the problem. I should have written it down because I was on a roll, and now I have no idea what I was talking about.
My type 5 would probably be the motorized the gas powered leaf blowers, that piss me off.
Yeah, that's a good bit.
I spent a lot of time thinking about those guys that
you know what mine would be?
I could do what?
If yours is the leaf blower, we are such total losers. I would just listen to what I'm about to say. If your bit would be the motorized I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
If your bit would be the motorized leaf blower, mine would be like wanting to oatmeal chic. It would be like wanting to dress like a bowl of oatmeal.
No,
like
that's good. That plays. I think that'd be good. I don't.
Did I tell the story last time? And then I swear we'll get into horses. How when I was 12, when I was in maybe 13, I was in 7th grade. I had just watched Something's Gotta Give. With Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson. It's a Nancy Meyers movie. Nancy Meyers is the director who has these all her movies take place in the Hamptons or like Santa Barbara and these beautiful kitchens, and all the women are wearing they're all Meryl Streep and Diane Keaton, and they're all wearing like beige cashmere and like basic. And I watched this movie and I was like, I love Diane Keaton style so much. I made my mom go out and buy me. I was like, I need this outfit. I made her go to the mall and I got a turtleneck with a button down to wear over it because I thought Diane Keaton looked so cool.
You were dressing like Diane Keaton in junior high.
Yeah, and my mom, who is the most supportive, do whatever you want. Where she was like, she's like, you sure? She's like, you're gonna wear that to 7th grade? And I was like, this is the high. I mean, I was like, have you ever seen anyone look cooler? And she was like, well, I mean, okay. And I told her this story the other day. She didn't remember it. And she was like, I said that? Like, and I was like, yeah, no, you were like, pump the brakes for a second. And she was like, I mean, I just looking out. Just looking out.
Your mom's like, Charlotte, you have the rest of your life to look like a bowl of oatmeal. Like, I don't know, maybe get some colorful, I don't know, wear a starter jacket like the rest of the kids, like, come on, what are we doing, Charlotte?
She's like, even like the jeans, the straight leg jeans and white polo you normally wear, that's better than this. Like, we gotta. Anyway, man. So I just realized that I've been my whole life. This is what it's come to. Like, this was just the long game.
I think that could play. I think a 5-minute set on your attire and your dress. I think that would work. I think that could be good.
Anyway, should we talk about horses?
Yeah, we should. I want to give a shout out though real quick to DK Metcalf. That was another thing I wrote down. Running the 100-meter dash. Did you see that? The DK Metcalf, who's very quickly becoming one of my favorite athletes in sports, I guess is how you'd say that. One of my favorite,
as opposed to music.
As opposed to one of my favorite current athletes still playing. DK Metcalf. He entered this 100-meter dash in the Golden Games. Like, he's trying out for. The Olympics, kind of.
I saw that he was going to. I didn't see.
He kind of knows he's probably not gonna make the Olympics, but he's like, screw it, I'll do it. I'll run against these guys. I'll see how good I was. He finished last. It was the most. I watched the race. He finished last in his heat, but it was the most impressive last place finish of all time, I'd say. He stuck with all the guys. He very much, and it was hysterical. You should go watch it. It was hysterical watching them, like in the lead up to the race, which is only like the 3 or 4 minutes as the guys are getting ready to get in the blocks, and they're all standing there. DK Metcalf looks absolutely massive. He looks like comically out of place. And these track guys are already in good shape and they're all cut up and, you know, they have 0% body fat and all that, but they don't have muscle on muscle on muscle on muscle. And DK
Right, their
Metcalf
biceps don't have biceps.
and they're not 6'3", 6'4", whatever DK Metcalf is. It is hysterical just watching it because you know how they stand there and they kind of they just kind of, you know,
They like
back
kick
and
their legs
forth, and
out
they're
a little.
kicking their legs, and and they got their chains on, and they go back and forth with tucking it in, and then it tucks it out, and then they're like they get those shots, and then some of the guys are punching their legs and getting warmed up, and so during that, as the announcers are talking about these guys, they cut from DK Metcalf to like the guys who are the favorites. And it's like, oh my God, he looks like a father racing against his, like, you know, his children. And then he ends up getting last, obviously. I mean, the guy doesn't train for this like the rest of the guys do, but it was very, very impressive. It was the most impressive last place finish I've ever seen. That's what I want to say.
You know what? You probably liked it.
What is that?
Because it was like you playing rec league basketball.
Yeah, it was. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. DK Metcalf halfway through says this isn't fair and takes off his shoes.
Takes his shoes off.
No, he definitely he held his own. I mean, he's not going to make the Olympic team. He does not have a future. Does not see him in a 100-meter dash. But I think he's going to be just fine at football. But he held his own. It was crazy. That's what I mean. Like that's why it was so impressive. That's why I keep saying the most impressive last place finish. He technically got last in the heat, but it was not last where like he's, you know, falling behind the rest of the pack. He was with the pack. And he got last, so whatever.
I think it's super cool that he tried.
Yeah, and he kind of didn't say anything about it until like a few days before, I guess. Like he didn't. It was not like a big, highly publicized thing. He's just like, I'm gonna run this race. We'll see how I do. All right, I lose. Good job, guys. Maybe I'll do it again someday. I don't know.
I love it.
I love it. He's awesome. All right, speaking of racing, let's talk about horses because Bob Baffert has become a villain, we'll say. I mean, he's kind of already been a villain in horse racing, but he, in my mind, he has dominated a lot of my brain power in thinking about sports in the past week.
Yes, same.
I've spent a lot of time, even though I haven't been on the internet much, I have heard about Bob Baffert giving a horse steroids. And it is occupied. Especially, we glossed over last week the dog that got meth in New Zealand, and we laughed about it. We were like, how messed up is that they're giving these animals things to run faster? And then bam, the Kentucky Derby, the most prestigious horse race that exists in this country, won by Bob Baffert yet again.
Who is a horse trainer, for those who don't know. He trains horses.
He is not the horse. Bob Baffert is not the name of the horse. He is the trainer of the horse. He is the guy that
Bob
looks
Baffert won the Kentucky Derby. Bob Baffert and DK Metcalf won the Kentucky Derby.
Charlotte, that should be the punishment for Bob Baffert, is that he, like, they allow Medina Spirit to run in the Preakness. The reason we're talking about this, by the way, is the Preakness is coming up on Saturday. So Medina Spirit tests positive for betamethasone, I believe is the substance, which is like a steroid that we have since learned he absorbed into his body via an ointment that was put on him because he apparently has dermatitis. Horses, they're just like us. He had dermatitis, so they rub ointment on him. It gives him a little boost, a little kick to run a little faster. But now Medina Spirit apparently is eligible to run this weekend in the Preakness to preserve the Triple Crown pursuit. And I think one of the punishments, part of the negotiation as to whether Medina Spirit should be eligible or not, I think Bob Baffert should have to run with the rest of the horses. I think you should have to put Bob Baffert out there and just run the entire, what is it, like a mile and a half, a mile and a quarter?
Do you know what it makes me think of? That Monty Python skit where they have all the Queen Victorias racing against each other and it's like Queen Victoria in the lead, followed by Queen Victoria and Queen. I think so too. I think also though, like, we can't ignore the fact that Bob Baffert first said that it was one of the grooms who had taken cough syrup or cough medicine and then peed on the hay in the horse's stall, and then the horse ate the hay, which is how he got betamethasone in his system. And then Bob Baffert's like, oh, sorry, no, it was the dermatitis cream.
Damn it, it was the cream.
Like,
that's
my
what it
bad.
was.
Sorry,
it was probably the cream.
It wasn't the elaborate thing that I said before. Also, it was 21 picograms, which is a small amount, which, so Bob Baffert is saying that, like, the horse is, like, cancel culture is coming for Medina Spirit.
No, it is a small amount. You know how I know that is because Bob Baffert himself told me that my pharmacologist told me that 21 picograms would have had no effect on the outcome of the race. This is the funniest part to me. This is why this is so interesting.
Did you go to a pharmacy and ask?
This is why this story is so funny to me is that the cheating itself is not exactly surprising. It's sports. Show me a sport that exists in this world. There's probably somebody cheating trying to win.
Right.
What is so funny is the fallout of it is Bob Baffert just incredulous. Like, how did this, you know what? There's a horse that peed on the hay. I saw him pee on hay. That's probably what happened. But you know what, guys? I'm going to investigate this. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to figure out how this happened. Don't you worry. And then in part of his investigation, he talks to his pharmacologist, which what's the difference between a pharmacist and a pharmacologist? I don't know.
I couldn't tell you.
His pharmacologist told him that this would have no effect on the race. So he investigated himself. He determined that he had no idea this happened. He had no idea how this happened. He's going to figure out who did this. But in the meantime, also my research has uncovered that the win is legitimate and that, yes, the horse did have more of a substance than he's legally allowed to have. But according to people on my payroll,
Right.
they told me that this is a clean win, so drop it. Everybody drop it. I don't see what the issue is here.
There's that, right. I'm honestly surprised that, like, you know, we've become a true crime sports podcast. So you'd think he would have called up, you know, Dumb and Dumber over here to really investigate this.
We would investigate, yeah.
And we would find, well, I mean, if Bob Baffert told us, we'd be like, well, there you have it from the horse's mouth. Sorry.
No, Charlotte. Sorry. Bob Baffert is not the horse. You're confusing our listeners.
I keep forgetting.
Not from the horse.
I keep forgetting. Sorry. Medina Spirit is the horse. I know. And you know, when we were talking about this before we hopped on here, you said something that I think is very true, which is that, like, the worst possible way to cheat, and we mentioned this last week with Dogs on Meth, is that giving an animal illicit substances in order to win a sporting event and make money is probably up there with one of the, like, most craven, like, horrible things you can do. Like, I can't imagine, like, you have to be a really, really like, someone's got to be really wrong with you to do that.
I agree with you that cheating in this way, this is one of the worst ways I think you can cheat in sports. Is like, and to be clear, like, he's not. I think when you hear, like, he's giving a horse steroids, your mind immediately goes to this massive syringe that they're just, like, they're sedating the horse and then just, like, shooting it into his jugular. And that's not how it works anymore. I guess it probably used to work that way, but
no, you just you jolted me out of my little rant when you were like, they put ointment on a horse.
On a horse, yeah.
And so, like, if you give them the benefit of the doubt and you're like, okay, that is actually what happened, as opposed to, like, maybe they've been giving this horse steroids for a while before the race, and that, like, you can think really cynically about it.
But my mind immediately goes to, like, they were probably doing that too. You know,
that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I'm like, okay, I just, like, horse racing is so corrupt already that something like this comes out, and I'm like, I'm probably not going to give you the benefit of the doubt, especially because Bob Baffert has been, like, his horses. He's been training horses for like 40 years. This guy's been in this forever. He's been flagged with at least 30 medication violations.
Yes. Like 5 in the last year, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what they're saying?
I don't know. I didn't see it.
Yeah, I
right?
saw that. Yeah, it's like 5 in the last, like, 12 or 13 months he has been dinged with. Yeah. So he has no idea
it's sort
how
of like a fool me once situation.
Yeah. Fool me 35 times.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like you said, like, the incident itself, rubbing a little ointment on the dermatitis, like, dermatitis sucks. I get it. You want to help the horse out. Put a little, you know,
I mean,
that alone might not be that big of a deal, but I have to believe that in the world of horse racing, they know they have figured out the science enough. Like, this is all, like, there's so much money in this. There's so much science in this. There's so much, it would be stupid not to in a lot of ways. I mean, as immoral as that sounds, it would be stupid to not cheat. It would be stupid to not.
I mean, this is your NBA theory, right?
Like, if you're trying to win horse races, of course, there's a 0% chance in my mind that people aren't, like, drugging these horses to make them stronger and faster and whatever, and figuring out, like, how many picograms can we do? We can do 21. Right. All right, I'm gonna do 26, and then say, I don't know how those last 5 got in there, or, like, I'm gonna do like, or if they start testing for the Derby, like, a month out, 2 months out, whatever, let's just pump this dude full of as many steroids as possible. We'll pull them off off right as the testing starts.
That's exactly
They figured this out. So like that's kind of how baseball worked. Is like these guys with juice, they would get caught and they'd be like, "Damn, I won't do it again." And it's like that's great, but like the whole reason now you're not going to do it again. Now that you got the veins popping out of your neck and out of like you've kind of already done it. Like
you've reaped the benefits of the cheating.
Yeah, like it's easy to now say I'm not going to do it again now that your muscles are massive and you don't really need to do it anymore.
Right.
Like that's kind of what I assume goes on in horse racing is that this happens, and then they put a little cream for that extra oomph.
Right.
And then you ding them for the extra oomph, and they're like, okay, we won't put the cream on anymore. And it's like I'm sure there's something else going on in the years leading up to this horse race. But,
yeah, you're like, so you're telling me that the most you've done to this horse, this finely tuned instrument of a racing machine that could potentially win you millions and millions of dollars, is that you wanted to help it with a little acne.
Yes.
Like that's what we're going with.
You're feeding it warm milk and hay, and that's all you're giving it. That's all.
Right. Like a pat here and there. Like sometimes you brush them. It's like
you brush them, and that's all the care that's going into making this horse a machine. Yeah.
If that's the least funny way you can cheat, the most funny things are what Bob Baffert has said about it. It's like trying to get around.
And this is why this story checks a lot of boxes for us, is that it's the mental gymnastics, if you will, of Bob Baffert. Like he's spiraling, trying to figure out an explanation that the public will take. But there is none, like, because we know the explanation is like, dude, you cheat. This is how you win all of your races. This is
right.
I mean, Charlotte, here's a little timeline for you. You want to do some sports investigative journalism. Bob Baffert.
I love when you you
lean
start
up in
a
my
thing
chair,
and
I start
and you get your it's like you're cracking your knuckles. Charlotte, here's the deal. So let's go into it, Mark. Tell me.
Bob Baffert, from 1997 to 2002, he burst onto the scene, and he's been a horse trainer as you said for a very long time, but 1997 he burst onto the Triple Crown scene, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah, sure, let's call it
the
that.
relevance scene. Like there's a lot of horse racing going on in this country that most of the country probably doesn't care much about. The three races we care about are the Belmont Stakes, the Preakness, and the Kentucky Derby, obviously. So Bob Baffert jumps onto that scene in 1997, starts winning races left and right. From 1997 to 2002, he wins 8 of the Triple Crown races. 8 of them, Charlotte. That's a hell of a run that he goes on. From 2002 to 2015, this man falls off a cliff as a horse trainer. He has one win. It was the 2010 Preakness. That's the only win of massive importance. Then 2015, he comes back with a vengeance. And from 2015 until the present day, he has now won 8 more of these races, including 2 Triple Crown winners for the first time since 1978. There was not a Triple Crown winner from 1978 to 2015. Then he wins the Triple Crown. Then he wins it again a couple years later.
What horse was that?
American
Do you
Pharaoh,
remember?
right?
Yeah, wasn't
Justified.
it?
Those are the 2 that won, Justified and American Pharaoh. I think Pharaoh was 2015.
Yeah.
He wins 2 Triple Crowns, which is something that hasn't happened since 78. He's now winning races. My question, Charlotte, is this suspicious that this man has a 13-year run? He's winning a lot. He falls off. 13-year run of not winning a lot, and then he comes back and now he's winning again. Did he learn something in those 13 years? Who is his pharmacologist in those 13 years? I don't know. This stinks to high hell to me.
I think that as a podcast that deals with, mysteries and true crime and all sorts of nefarious things constantly, allegedly, Bob Baffert, first of all of this is allegedly, right? But the thing about also they tested
allegedly.
the horse and he had bethomethasone, which is now a word I know how to say in his system. It's not like Bob Baffert. The thing that's so damning about the whole thing is it's not like Bob Baffert was an athlete who all of a sudden figured out a really great massage technique for his own body, or he worked on his swing. He learned how he learned how to. It's like Tiger Woods coming with a new swing. It's no, these are animals. These are horses.
Yes.
And it is hard to believe that all of a sudden there was a breakthrough in horse massage. That really changed everything. So I think it is also the guy's name is Bob Baffert. Someone whose last name is Baffert. Baffert sounds like a synonym for somebody who it's he was Bafferting around. You know what I mean? I think that's important. I don't think people talk about that enough.
Yeah.
And he looks like Will Ferrell in Eastbound and Down.
Baffert though doesn't sound like a villain to me. It sounds like more comical. It sounds like Bafferting around sounds like he's being a big goofball and he's out there Bafferting. Or I don't know. It doesn't sound like he's like hiding in the shadows. But I don't know. Maybe.
All right, cool. Well, there goes my next 5-minute set. Thanks, Mark.
You brought up the point that this is a horse we're talking about because I think this is very important to remind everybody that it's a horse.
It's a horse.
Because Bob Baffert is doing it. Bob Baffert.
Express enough.
What?
Bob Baffert is not the horse.
He's not the horse.
People
but
forget that.
He is doing his best to make it seem like the horse is sentient and or like is has a human consciousness, has a brain, has that the horse is reading the headlines that people are writing about it. He's doing interviews.
You really hurt Medina Spirit's feelings.
Yeah. Like the reason he's so determined to get to the bottom of what happened is that Medina Spirit is stressed going through all of this, and he's like, it makes me sick that he has to now that his win is tainted, and that I just feel for the horse. Like he said that a handful of times. I just feel so bad for the horse, and it's like it's a horse.
The horse doesn't know.
The horse doesn't know you're racing, does it? No,
I don't know.
Like,
See, okay,
you're slapping my ass. Like you keep slapping my ass, dude. Like I'm just like, fine, I'll run faster. Like how much more? I can't go any faster.
I'm not sure why there are all these other horses around, but like, fine, I'll go a little faster if you want. This is something I think about a lot. Do the animals know that they are competing?
Yeah.
And this is also something I think about a lot in general with, dog. Like when a dog is lying, this is a tangent, but like when a dog is just lying there, like is the dog thinking? Like is Moses in the room with you right now?
He's lying right at my feet, actually.
Like what do you think is going through Moses's head? Like is he asleep?
His eyes are open and he's just kind of staring at the wall.
Can you ask him if horses?
Mose, do you believe that Medina Spirit is reading the tabloids, is reading the headlines about him? No reaction. Moses is just laying there. So
yeah.
I don't think so. I think because Moses has Moses has had some haters before. So and I haven't noticed a change in his demeanor. Yeah, there have been haters.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, because I've put up pictures or videos of him. Like I don't know, and he's it's a long story.
First of all, okay, I've changed my mind to the worst thing you could do besides giving drugs to an animal is deciding that you don't like Moses. Like.
Listen, as Evan Turner once famously said, Jesus was hated too. So, I mean, I don't know how we're going to continue the show after that. That was just so good. Moses had haters. I've never once seen his demeanor change. I'm going to go ahead and say that Medina Spirit has no idea what's going on. That he's a horse, a great horse. I'm sure he's a smart horse, but he is nonetheless a horse. And Bob Baffert is, that is another funny part to me is that he is like, he's hell-bent. It's definitely not selfish. That's like how he's framing it. He's like, I'm definitely not like going to bat to defend this incident to preserve my own legacy. I'm doing it for the horse. I'm doing it because the horse is so stressed right now. The horse has to explain to his wife and kids why the people on TV are saying mean things about daddy. And I want to help that horse out. Like that's his whole mindset.
Baffert comes out here. Baffert comes out here at the press conference and he's like, first of all, shame on you.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard this has been on Mrs. Spirit? Do you know what the little spirits have had to go through?
They have to go to school. The bullies at school will not.
Do you know how many stalls these horses have been stuffed into because of what you're saying about their dad? Yeah, no, I also think that it's like, it's sort of the fathers of daughters excuse. Mm-hmm. Of horse racing, mm-hmm. Where like a guy does something awful and he comes out and he's like, look, I've as a father of daughters, as the son of a mother, mm-hmm. as the brother of a sister, I just want to say I respect mm-hmm. women. And Bob Baffert comes out here and he's like, as a trainer of a horse,
mm-hmm.
as
a horse's myself.
Roommate, as a horse.
Like that's something Bob Baffert would say. Like, as a horse myself, I have.
He'd be like, I did 23andMe, and I am 0.2% Arabian.
Yeah, go
thoroughbred.
Ahead. Yeah, Arabian thoroughbred.
I couldn't think of a horse. I'm 2% Chincoteague. That's Misty of Chincoteague. That's a book, and all my like fellow losers out there are gonna be like, yeah, I read that book in 7th grade. It's about these horses who live on an island in South Carolina.
Are you a horse girl? We should have started
No.
the show with that. You're not.
I know,
I guess that would have been clear.
I'm shocked that you didn't
Yeah,
start the show with
I'm
that.
sure if you're a horse girl, you wouldn't have struggled trying to think of a horse breed, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. You check a lot of boxes.
Can you think of a single horse breed right now? I check a lot of horse girl boxes.
You do you not? Am I wrong? Like
No, you're right, and it's upsetting.
You just got done
Here's the
saying
thing.
you dressed like Diane Keaton in junior high. I mean, like, I think the overlap of people who dress like Diane Keaton in junior high and horse girls are probably, it's probably a lot of overlap there.
I'm gonna be honest, this is a really hard one to come back from. I just want to say,
breed. Stallion, is that one? Is a stallion a breed or is it like a type of horse?
no, it's a male horse.
Oh. You sure do know a lot about horses for not being a horse girl.
Okay, I want to go on record and saying I was not a horse girl, and it upset my. First of all, I know that right now I have the hair of a horse girl. Go to YouTube. I need a haircut. I look like
you have not stopped brushing your hair this entire show. It's interesting.
I'm using one of those horse like mane brushes. No, my mom really loved horses when she was little. She wasn't a horse girl, but she grew up in Baltimore next to the Pimlico track, and she would sneak into Pimlico to look at the horses. And so she really wanted me to love horses when I was little, and I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm not into this. I'm a boat girl. And she was like, that's even weirder because you're 5. But no, so I'm not, even though I do realize that admitting that I dressed like Diane Keaton in 7th grade is a real red flag.
Let me let's talk through your feelings on horse racing in general, because I fluctuate back and forth on the sport. Not how do I say it? Like in terms of like it being dumb, and then every so often I'm like, this is the dumbest sport that's ever existed, and then every so often it's like every other year it feels like, and then I go back to being like, this is actually the greatest sport we have, and this is like so pure, other than pumping them full of steroids,
other than everything about it,
but like the genesis of it is just basically this probably goes back to, I mean, God knows how long. This is a sport that you cannot trace the beginnings of, because it's as long as men have been riding horses, they've probably been racing them. And it's fascinating that this is stuck around, and we still, the history of it, the tradition of it, the fact that they go into the Kentucky Derby and they're like, this is the 147th running. I'm like, yikes, that's a lot of running to the Kentucky Derby. All that stuff.
That's your reaction. You turn it on, you're like, yikes, whoa, this again?
So then I get into it. I'm like, wow, this might be the only sport that matters.
Yes.
It's like horse racing and sailing. Like, because I don't know.
I was just going to say,
horse racing,
you could say
sailing,
the same thing about boats. Like, as long as people have been sailing boats, they've been racing them.
And like the marathon, like those are like the 3, like the marathon at the Olympics. Like those are the 3 most prestige, or not prestigious.
I just want to say that we do work for Fox Sports that has the NFL, baseball, and a lot of college sports, which are also very prestigious.
Yes.
However,
yes. But
the only sports that matter are horse racing, sailing, and marathons.
Well, no, there's something about it that's like romantic almost. So where do you fall on that spectrum? Do you fall on this is kind of stupid and outdated, and like, why again are we, when we have far better sports now? We could watch guys play Call of Duty on the internet. Like, why are we watching small men jump on top of horses pumped full of steroids for 2 minutes at a time? Why is this a thing?
First of all, you just did one of my favorite things, which is just explaining sports in terms that aren't sports
Just
terms. Like,
reductionist.
if you try, like, if you reduce basketball or football or tennis to anything, you're just like, oh my God, this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire. You mean they hit a ball back and forth over a 3-foot high divider, and you're like, yeah. And it is electric.
Yes.
So yeah, I feel like, honestly, Mark, I go back and forth because I do the whole, like, I feel bad for the animals thing. Because I feel awful for the horses who, like Medina Spirit and his family getting dragged into all of this. But I also, the only, like, the best story, the first good story I ever wrote was when I went to the Kentucky Derby. And that's the one where I saw Aaron Rodgers. So this really all comes full circle. And when I was there is something about being at a horse race that is like so primal. It's exactly what you're talking about. It's like as long as people and horses have existed in the same space at the same time, they've been doing this. And like if you're up against the rail when these horses run by, I was convinced. I was like, this is the only and you're like, not only is this the only sport that matters, like this is the only thing in the world that matters. Are racing horses against each other, right? Like it is. It's emotional, like it's very bizarre. And so I definitely go back and forth too, where I'm like, why are we doing this to these animals who don't know they're racing? And then I'm also like, don't ever stop doing this because it's huge.
Doesn't the winner just get to have sex for the rest of its life? So like, isn't that like should we really feel bad about? Like, I mean,
you could say that a lot of other athletes probably, you know, you win a championship. Like, I feel like it's probably not too different for humans.
That'd be hilarious if they just like straight up advertise it. Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Remember, folks, the Larry O'Brien is on the line, but also whoever takes this thing home will get laid for the rest of their life.
You're gonna get laid forever.
All right. Let's throw it over to Mike Breen and Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy.
Doris, take it away. Right. So, but no, they do. So, I mean, I guess there is something in it for the horse. I don't know.
I went to one Kentucky Derby, and that was my big takeaway, was like how massive these horses are, which makes a lot of sense, but also kind of doesn't make sense because we've all seen horses. I don't know, maybe not all of us if you grew up in a city and haven't really left the city. But I don't know, growing up in Indiana, it's like not horse central. Kentucky's obviously the horse place, but there are horse farms. I've grown up around horse farms, Charlotte, and you see I've been around horses in my life, even though I've never actually ridden a horse. And you think you have an idea of how big these animals are. What's funny? What is funny? Is this funny to you?
I'm sorry. I just started thinking about that sentence you just said, which was, I grew up in Indiana, which is not
the horse place.
No. You go, I grew up in Indiana, which is not horse central. Kentucky is the horse place.
Is it not?
I'm just going to embroider that on a pillow. I'm going to say I grew up in Indiana.
There's a sign outside of Indiana that says, "Welcome to Indiana. We are not horse central." That's what it says.
Sure you did.
If you're looking
for horse central, please turn around. You're going in the wrong direction. Anyway, so you grew up around horses, like.
I don't know. It's like if you grow up like not in a massive city, you probably have seen horses in your life. And then I went to the Kentucky Derby and just assumed like it would be the horses that I've, like I drive past to go to high school or wherever the hell you're like just driving around the countryside. Right. Not the case. These things are like 3 times the size. They're absolutely massive. And I don't know. That's what overcame me too, is like how primal it is. It's like these are massive beasts. I go back to like thousands of years ago when these things were wild and you had to like tame them to even ride them in the first place, all that kind of stuff. So that's my way of saying I'm back in on horse racing. I'm excited for the Preakness. I'm excited to see how Bob Baffert cheats his way to another win. Medina Spirit will be taking part in this.
Knock on wood, it's still going to pass another drug test.
He's going to take part in this. And I'm going to tell you why, because Bob Baffert has elevated, he is smartly figured out a way to elevate himself to a level where horse racing needs him.
Yep.
Where if Bob Baffert goes down, it is so damaging for the entire sport. He's like Lance Armstrong in a lot of ways. This is what Lance Armstrong got to with cycling. How much have you paid it? Name one Tour de France winner since Lance Armstrong has stopped racing and said I did steroids and all that. You can't do it.
I don't know.
Can anybody in America do it? No, and everyone was glued in to Lance Armstrong. I remember Floyd Landis, I guess. Maybe he won one, but then he dove too. The point is, I feel like Bob Baffert got to that level where like the whole reason we care, that's not true, but like
Name another horse trainer. Name another horse trainer.
Name another horse trainer. Yes. And if Bob Baffert is tainted, if his legacy is tainted, if his accomplishments within the sport are tainted, the entire sport is tainted, and it all goes down. And so for that reason, those in the horse racing world have to understand this. Yeah. And they're going to find a way to punish Bob Baffert without cutting Bob Baffert out and punishing him in the way he probably deserves to be punished, which is to say, my hope is that the punishment is Bob Baffert has to run the Preakness. Put him in the starting gate.
Which is a long way of saying, put Bob Baffert in the race.
Put a jockey on his back. Make him run a mile, and I think all is forgiven. I think if Bob Baffert does that, every single person in America has to drop it, and they have to say, "All right, you've paid your penance."
I can't argue with that. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. I think that he has said that he'll elevate it to like getting a temporary restraining order. I don't know. There's like he's gone into the horse racing legal lingo where for me it becomes like cap space where I don't understand and I'm never going to understand, but I know that he's going to fight it if this horse gets banned. But yeah, so we've got the Preakness. I don't know the names of other horses running because I've been so consumed by the Medina Spirit story. Like I paid attention when the Kentucky Derby, like I even read an article that was like the meaning behind all of the Kentucky Derby horses' names, and now I can't remember a single one because all I can think of is Bob Baffert, which is not a horse's name apparently, which I just learned. But have you do you think about horses' names a lot? Because like I do.
I know that you do. You've mentioned this before to me. I do from time to time, but then I had this epiphany because you asked me to come prepared with some horse names, and
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
I might have asked you to do that.
I was putting together a list of things I would name a horse, and I realized you can literally name a horse anything.
No,
you can't.
There are rules for naming horses.
I was looking up like other horse names that have existed throughout time, and I'm like, these are all nonsense. What are the rules?
Okay, names can be up to 18 characters, which includes spaces and punctuation, not plural.
Are you serious?
Yeah, you can't no names of actual persons because you submit these names to the Jockey Club, which is apparently a thing, and not an underwear brand. There's no names of actual persons unless written permission to use their name is on file with the Jockey Club. No names that are suggestive or have a vulgar or obscene meaning. Names considered in poor taste or names that may be offensive to religious, political, or ethnic groups, which makes me worried that my brilliant name of Sister Christian wouldn't pass because that's religious.
That can't be true. That can't be because like that is such a gray area. Like American Pharaoh, I'm sure someone could argue is like somehow offensive.
Yeah, for sure. But like anybody who's on the Jockey Club registry is going to be like, yeah, that's fine. Like you have to remember the people that these are going up in front of. There's still people who have to judge them. So I'm assuming they're all like white guys in Kentucky who are going to be like, most of these things are fine.
This. Can I out of the gate? There's a little horse racing.
Ooh. Out of the gate from the horse's mouth. Tell me how you feel about this.
From the horse's mouth. Can I say I don't like this? I think if you have enough money to buy a horse, to breed horses, to get a thoroughbred into the Kentucky Derby, you should be able to name it whatever the hell you want to name it. And that should be that. I don't understand why you should be able to name your horse whatever. Like think about taking this this system and applying it to something else.
It's a free speech issue, Mark.
Yeah,
this is a First Amendment right.
That Antonio Rogers Cromartie or whatever his name is like that's too long of a name. Sorry, that's too long of a name. You have to change your name. And he's like, what? That's my name. Well, how could I? What do you mean I have to change my name?
Naming a kid, naming you Mark Titus isn't the same thing as naming a horse that's name is gonna be said on broadcasts. Like your parents didn't know you were gonna host a podcast. They didn't know you were gonna host multiple podcasts. They didn't know that you were gonna if you have a horse and you're training it to run in races, you know that name is gonna be public. So the Jockey Club is like, we can't have someone out here be like naming their horse I was just gonna say something extremely vulgar, but you can't have that.
No.
So they had to put some rules.
No,
you can't.
I don't like it. This is not script. This. It's my horse. Hey, I would be in these meetings and be like, hey, but you keep your hands off my horse.
I'll
name my horse what I want, and you name your horse.
Yeah. I hope you never get $1 billion because you would be like the worst boat and horse owner.
I'm the guy at the HOA meetings yelling about like, why can I not have my Mustang in my front yard? It doesn't make any sense. Hey, there's a horse breed Mustang.
It's a gas-powered lawn leaf blower for a reason because it works.
Is a Mustang a horse breed?
Oh, yeah.
There it is. How about that?
Wow, the layers of wordplay we're doing here. I'm very impressed. So, okay, so tell me some of the names.
My list that I made, I was just trying to think of, I don't know. And I got so far in it, I was like, you could just, that's where I got in my head. I was like, any of this works. I wrote down left tackle as the first one. I don't know why.
That's really good.
Left tackle.
That's a great horse name. Because also a horse tack is a thing.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I don't know what it is.
But I like the idea of left tackle. That just seems like a beefy horse too. That's like going to a very strong thoroughbred. I was thinking about drink type. Like I want a horse that says that invites like a fun spirit, like maybe Fun Spirit is the next one. That when you
that's
read
like one of those pontoon boats on a lake that's named Fun Spirit.
Here's a question for you. Because I wrote this down. What is the difference between strategy for naming a horse and naming a boat?
Oh, absolutely the same thing.
It's the same thing to you.
There's no difference.
I walk around the marina here and I notice there are a lot of puns. It's like that is the go-to thing with a horse or with a boat is like ecstasy, which C is spelled.
Oh yeah, right.
Like,
I once when I was teaching sailing. Sorry. But when I was teaching sailing, in Maine, there was this like massive yacht, this like huge, sort of like something that Jeff Bezos would own that like came into the harbor, and everyone was like, "What the heck is this boat doing here?" And our kids were sailing these, these boats were like 10 feet long that they would sail, and they would just smack into every boat in the harbor, and it was a real problem because there were some nice boats, but they like one kid gets stuck. Like is heading directly into the wind, so he's not going anywhere, and he just keeps bashing up against the side of this like stunning yacht. And I was like, oh my god. And I go over, the thing is called acquisition, first of all, and I was like, oh, keep going. I was like, don't worry, buddy, just like smash that thing all you want.
You pay millions of dollars for a yacht and then you throw a shitty pun on the back of it. I don't understand it, but
I think that there are more puns in boats. I think you're right. I think that it depends though, right? Like if you have a super nice yacht, you're going to name it something. You're going to try, unless you're a total asshole, like whoever owns Acquisition. If you know who owns that boat, email us, by the way. Like you're going to try to name it something nice, which is I think the same thing with a horse, or you just get, so it's like a family inside thing or something. I don't know. Yeah. I think it's a similar vibe though.
I want to get a pontoon boat on a tiny lake. That's just like 20 feet deep is all. It's like very tiny lake.
You could say that the boat would have a shallow draft. Very
shallow draft boat, just a pontoon that would just kind of fart around the lake, and that's about it. And I want to name it the Unsinkable 2. And I think that's always been my idea for naming a boat. It wouldn't be as funny on a boat that you take into the ocean, because that's like you're kind of jinxing it. But a pontoon at like a tiny lake in Indiana or Ohio, and it's called the Unsinkable 2.
I hate how funny that is.
I think that plays. Anyway, back to my horse list. I wanted to have names that like make it, because I see horse name that seems fun and I want to bet on that horse. So I wrote down Drinks on Me.
Oh,
Drinks
that's
on Me.
Good.
Would that be a good one?
Yes.
Or like I'll have another. Is that a good one?
That's incredible. These are great horse names.
I wrote down. I realized that like you can just kind of pick like common phrases.
Yeah.
And just apply those, and those seem to work too. And then I realized common phrases might be a good name for a horse. It's just like common phrases.
That's so good. I think you could do like going off of your. I like the football idea. Like name a horse Heisman winner.
Heisman winner. Yeah.
Like that's funny to me.
But I really just got caught in this like rabbit hole of like trying to think of just common phrases like shoot the breeze or something, and like
it sounds like a horse that farts
like,
a lot.
Bite the bullet or something. You're just like, bite the, It's all that's how they name horses though. They just come up with, and I'm not very good at this. The only other ones I wrote down were third place, which I don't think third place I don't think you put that horse in the Kentucky Derby. I think that's at like the cheap tracks, like out in the sticks.
Definitely, for sure.
There's a horse called third place.
That's actually a dog that they enter in the horse races. And everyone's like, "What?" And you're like, "Don't worry about it." They're like, "Maybe don't bet on it, but like, don't worry about it either."
Third place, I put Bet on Me because I have. One of my most passionate horse racing takes, I can't believe we're almost an hour into the show and I haven't brought this up. One of my more passionate horse racing takes is that I think the owners of the horses should get a cut of all the money that is bet on their horses to win. And the reason I say this is because I want owners of horses to be incentivized to convince the public to back their horse. I want these owners
like campaigns?
Yes, I want them cutting promos saying like Medina Spirit, he is great week of practice. We're winning this thing. They're talking smack to each other. And so everyone's like throwing money on their horse and then they get a cut of it. You know what I mean? Like I want these guys incentivized
this to, I think NFL owners. should also do this. Like, I want to see Jerry Jones cut a promo saying, like, bet on the Cowboys.
Bet on the Cowboys. We're going to win. We're going to win the Super Bowl. Like, why would you not bet on us? I don't understand it. And then everyone bets on the Cowboys and they lose in the first round of the playoffs. So I had bet on me. And then
I like that.
the last two, because I was reading about Bob Baffert talking about cancel culture, and I thought cancel culture would be a funny name for a horse.
Oh,
honestly.
There it is. You
Cancel
win.
culture would be funny.
I, like, don't want to say mine now. That's it. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. The people are gonna email us. We're gonna have a People Sports Podcast Venmo. Everybody who listens is gonna Venmo us like between $1 and $7, and we're gonna save up, and we're gonna buy a horse, name it Cancel Culture.
Name it Cancel Culture. Yeah.
And enter it into the Derby.
Oh, the last one. I had one more. The last one was Dave. Just Dave. Just like I've always wanted that. Just a horse just named like, because that would, I would have the picture if like Dave is winning the Kentucky Derby. If you're like, Dave has a 4-length lead. Like, I'm listening to that on the radio. I am picturing like a guy named Dave
running.
just like.
I think I've long had the idea that the funniest human name you could give an animal is Brendan. I think a horse named Brendan running the Kentucky Derby would be really, really funny. It's like just, we had a little motorboat for a little while that I named Steve. So,
Was it actually a motorboat, or is that like a guy you dated and has like some sort of trick that I pick up on?
Never dated a Steve.
Okay.
Because of the boat. Sure. I was like, oh, sorry, that's the boat's name. I can't. I was thinking of names, and then I looked up the rules. Yours. So I still think that Sister Christian is...
That's a good one.
A really good one. And then I started thinking about the movie Boogie Nights, because Sister Christian is in that, and I thought Boogie Nights could be a really good name for a horse. Great. Yeah. And then I was like, it'd be funny, because in Boogie Nights, Alfred Molina does the air drums and is like singing Sister Christian. I think a horse named Alfred Molina would be pretty good, but we'd have to get his written consent according to the Jockey Club. Then I thought it would be funny to name a horse For the Gram.
For the Gram is good. Okay, yeah.
And then I was like, Bob Baffert should really just get out in front of this whole thing and name a horse Bethomethasone.
That's probably what he's going to name his horse. The horse
funny,
he
right?
runs next year.
Because he's like, do you think I would drug a horse named Bethomethasone? Like, that's just too on the nose.
It's on the nose would be a good one for.
That is a good one. And then I thought you could name a horse kombucha, and then I was like, and then I was like lavender, and then I was like, I was just looking at things in my apartment. It was like, exactly. I love lamp.
Exactly. That's exactly what I ended up doing too.
I saw a bottle of kombucha on the table, and I was like, "There's a horse name."
There's a horse name, and I think that's how it works. I think that's exactly how a horse races.
Here's my horse microphone.
Is there anything else before we get to our list? I had jockey trivia for you. I had that written down.
Oh wow!
According to CareerTrend.com, the average height of a jockey is what? What would you say?
4'11".
It says between 4'10" and 5'6", which tells me Career Trend doesn't understand how averages work, because I think you have to like pick a number.
I trust CelebrityNetWorth.com more than CareerTrend.com.
Yeah, so I guess they're like, if you average their averages, they say 5'2". What is the average weight?
98 pounds.
Between 108 and 118. But 98 that's wow. You really are picturing a very small man. 4'11", 98 pounds. Oh my god.
I'm bad with measurements. Don't know how big.
Finally, the last thing, the average salary of a jockey according to CareerTrend.com, and this does not necessarily mean the ones that are winning the Kentucky Derby. This is just like if you want to get into jockeying.
$45,000.
$30,000 to $40,000 a year. That is the average salary. You have to provide your own equipment, your own helmet, your own. What are the things? The whips, I guess it would be. No, maybe, I don't know. Your own saddle? You probably don't. No, they don't ride saddles,
pants.
right?
You gotta bring your own pants.
That's the whole point.
They have saddles?
They have saddles?
Are you kidding me? Wait. No, I don't know. They're not riding the Kentucky Derby bareback.
They aren't?
What?
You can't? Why can't you? Isn't that what it should be?
How are you gonna stand up?
Can't you put the horse? Can you still put like stirrups on it somehow and reins, but not have like a actual saddle to sit in with the little? I guess
now
they
have to Google Kentucky Derby.
I don't know. I told you I'm not a horse guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm clearly not a horse girl.
They have to have saddles. They probably have to have saddles.
They
but maybe
have saddles, Mark.
I don't think. I mean, the rodeo.
They're sitting on something.
Do they have saddles? Do they? I mean, there's got to be a sport where you ride horses bareback. I guess rodeos obviously have saddles, but when they're, I don't know. I'm confused now.
Anyway,
I got to do more research.
Same.
All right. Do you want to do our list?
Lists.
Let's wrap it up because we were talking earlier about how sad it is to cheat in this manner. That a victimless horse gets, I guess in this instance, he gets his dermatitis treated, but just the idea of drugging animals on the heels of a dog being given meth. These are stories though, like these are stories of cheating that you hear in sports that are not fun, and you're like, this sucks. Like I don't want to hear about this, and I don't know, and your brain goes to weird places. Yeah. So we decided, what are ways that are fun to cheat? What are stories you hear about cheating in sports, and you're like, that's just funny. And I don't know. To me, this is, I don't know if this is on your list, but this was what comes to mind when I think about this is Rosie Ruiz cheating in the Boston Marathon. Like,
I did not put that on my list because I thought that we would use that as an example.
That is an example of like, it's kind of victimless. It's still cheating.
She hopped on the subway or the MTA instead of running and blah, blah, blah.
She went to the finish line. That happened in the 2004 Olympics. I saw too, by the way, the marathon. A guy jumped in a car during the marathon and was like waving at the other runners as he was going past.
That's one of mine.
I'm sorry. All right. Well, we'll talk about that.
It's a good one. But so let's go 5
anyway,
through 1.
I was trying to set the stage of like what we're trying to do here is like cheating that's funny. It's all funny. It's fun to laugh at. It's fun to joke about. There's no victim in it. All that sort of stuff. So go ahead. You go first.
Okay. My first one, and I'm going to get through my first two are fairly simple and quick, and then we get to some of my more. So number 5, I have Deflategate. Because I thought that I worked at Boston.com at the time that Deflategate was going on, and all of our top 10 articles were about like deflated balls, were about the ideal gas law. We interviewed like physics professors and like chemists about all of this, and people were debating whether or not Tom Brady smashed his phone after the ball boys deflated the balls in the bathroom. Like, I'm sorry, find me a funnier. The entire time that this was going on, I was like, this is a gift from the content gods. Like, I don't care if it's true. First of all, I don't even think it's that big a deal. Like if a quarterback wants a ball like slightly less inflated to the point where you're measuring like ideal gas laws, that to me doesn't seem, I was like, sure, call the Patriots cheaters if that's cheating. Like, I don't really care. So I thought
as an unbiased Patriots fan,
I didn't give a shit. I just thought that Deflategate was at its core like a deeply, deeply hilarious thing.
I do think this is unfair, these lists we're putting together, that you have more experience with cheating as a Boston fan than I do. So I feel like you're going to have a better list than me. Is your top 5 all Boston, ways Boston have cheated? It might be.
No. Look, everybody's...
Not even just the Patriots. The Red Sox?
No.
Okay, all right, that's
Everybody's
fair. That's a fair counter.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying, okay?
All right.
Sorry that your teams haven't won as many championships.
All right. That's a fair rebuttal. Number 5 for me is diving in soccer. I think this is I don't condone it. I think they are all wusses and losers, all the guys that do this. But it is objectively hysterical to me to see a guy not get touched. And I'm not talking about like, a guy who milks it a little bit. I'm talking about a guy that straight up does not get touched, jumps in the air and like flaps his arms, falls down, has the moment of like, do I grab my face or do I grab my ankle? And he kind of does both and covers the face, but then grabs the ankle, but then covers the face. And then he's like, I'll do face this time because I don't want to laugh. So he covers the face as he's laughing and he's rolling around. And then the trainer comes out and sprays the magic spray on him. And he gets up and he's
like a spray bottle of water
and everything's fine. And then he takes the penalty kick and you win the World Cup and you're a hero. And it's like, that dude just cheated. That's like cheating. Like what you're doing right there, dude. Like you very obviously weren't touched. And this is, but it's all funny to me. I think anytime that happens, it's like, I'm not laughing with them. I'm definitely laughing at them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Cause they're still cheating. It's still,
still cheating. I think you're a loser. I think you suck. But it's funny to me how much you suck and you don't even realize it or you don't care. You're so shameless.
Yes.
That I'm just going to laugh mercilessly at you. So anytime that happens, I think it's funny more than anything else. I laugh more than I get mad, which is not always the case because there are a lot of people that watch soccer that just get like really pissed off at diving. Yeah. But I think it's mostly funny. Unless it happens to my team. Unless it happens to my team, then I'm pissed.
Who's your team? Oh, the Crew.
Go Crew.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, my fourth one, I did specific ones, is the Astros garbage can cheating thing. Because listen, I know that it was bad. I'm not saying, and I know that we joke, like, I'm happy the Astros are getting booed. I still think that we don't talk enough about how objectively hilarious this was, that these guys were like stealing signs and then they were like literally using a trash can they were garbage communicators. Yeah. Like they were using a trash can to tell each other what was up. And it reminds me of being a little kid in, elementary school where you like make up. It's like some stupid signal you have with it's a trash can. That's funny. Anything involving a trash can is funny.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like what they did is kind of messed up in the sense of they were very obviously cheating, and but the way they chose to carry that out is hysterical.
It's so funny.
They're banging on trash cans and dugouts,
which is kind of why I almost like had a soft spot for the Astros in this case, because I was like, if you're cheating in such a funny way, like using a trash can, maybe. No, I'm kidding. I didn't.
You're alone in that one. I hate.
I know. Sorry, I don't mean it. I just think it's really funny.
But it is funny. I will give you that. That thinking about the plan, like thinking about them having a team meeting before this all goes down. They're like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. So like, does two bangs on? Does that mean fastball or curveball? It's like, no, Johnny. How many times do we have to tell you? I'm gonna do one light bang.
Right.
That's a split finger.
Carlos, pay attention.
Yeah, right here, buddy.
When you hear Altuve just really go to town on that thing, that's a fastball.
And then it becomes like they're talking about it so much that like one guy raises his hand. He's like, couldn't we just like study the pitcher's tendencies? Wouldn't that take less time than like going over this system? And they're like, no, cut this guy. They look at the GM, like, cut this guy, get him out of here.
And then he's the one who leaks to the story.
Number 4 for me is just general delays of game. What I mean by this is some examples would be you have an up-tempo offense in a football game, and one of the defenders will just fall over and pretend to be hurt. And it's very, and then it stops the the no huddle.
Yeah.
The no huddle deal. I think about Jason Kidd when he was out of timeouts, when he was the coach of the Nets, and he had Tyshawn Taylor bump into him so he could spill his drink, and then they're cleaning up the drink and he's drawing up a timeout. Really, anyways, guys can get creative to delay a game for whatever reason. Right. I think it's hysterical, but it is also very much cheating, and you're a loser for doing this. But I mean, I'm not going to get like mad. Like the Jason Kidd story happened. There wasn't a single person that's like, what a jerk. He's cheating the game. Everyone's just like, what a goofball. I mean, like no one necessarily thought it was cool or smart, but we were laughing, right?
Well, it's also like he was willing to make such a fool of himself
for a timeout
to try to cheat that probably wouldn't work out anyway. That like, that's funny.
It did not work out, by the way. It ended up not working out.
Of course it didn't.
And just those sorts of things where you think of, I don't know, like a pitcher, you need to delay time for the pitcher to warm up in the bullpen. So you're coming out to like pull the other pitcher, and the coach is just kind of like waddling out. And he's very slowly.
Right.
And he's trying to
give anything to stop momentum of the other team.
Yes. And it's technically by the book cheating, but it's also like kind of funny how guys get creative with that. So I put that in number 4.
Yeah. I love it. My number 3 is the photoshops for the college admissions scandal. Look, I know that the college admissions scandal was awful and was, like a display of privilege of the utmost degree, and like it was a really, really bad thing. But we do need to appreciate that it is so funny that they were getting kids into college by finding a rower or a water polo player, like a stock photo, and then photoshopping your kid's face onto that when they've never played that sport. And I actually found some of the transcript of there was this witness who cooperated and leaked and gave the FBI records of their conversation with a dad of a kid that he was gonna so the guy who's doing this, who's fixing the whole thing, the fixer will call him. He goes, so I'm gonna make him a kicker. And this guy's name is Bill McClashen, who was this is the dad of this kid. And he was just sentenced to 3 months in prison today, I think, actually, for doing this. So he goes, so the guy who's doing the whole thing, the fixer goes, so I'm going to make him a kicker. McClashen laughs. He does have really strong legs. The fixer laughs. Well, this will be. And then McClashen goes, maybe he'll become a kicker. You never know. And then the fixer is like, yeah, absolutely. And so this keeps going for a little while where they're sort of joking about how he's going to lie. And then he goes, McClashen goes, I love it. I love it. This is so funny. So then just remind me again, we get there, done and done, the obvious deal. You and I talked about the 50K and the 200K. And then do we know he's in? You and I at least know he's in. And then he goes, the fixer goes, so yeah, when I get the profile, when I get the paperwork together, I got to create this profile pic. So what I'll probably need, if you guys have any pictures of him playing multiple sports or something where you can kind of see his face a little bit in action. And McClashen goes, And then the fixer goes, it would be helpful because I will Photoshop him onto a kicker. And the dad, McClash, is like, okay, let me look through what I have. Pretty funny. The way the world works these days is unbelievable.
Charlotte, how much would you pay for an NFT of these Photoshops?
At least 3 Ethereum. Anyway, that's my third. I just thought that conversation where the dad is saying how funny it is that they're cheating this way.
Yeah, that's it because it is funny. It's all preposterous. But I want to see these Photoshops. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, Sam,
the Photoshops that Rick Singer put together. I think that's the guy's name, right? Wasn't it Rick Singer?
Yeah.
That was spearheading this whole thing. What a ridiculous. Aunt Becky was involved in that too.
God bless her.
That's so good. That's a good one.
Felicity Huffman, wasn't she?
Yeah. That's right. Part of the plan is photoshopping.
Yeah, like we need
face.
Pictures of your kid kind of playing sports because we're going to Photoshop him onto a kicker.
I want to see these Photoshops so bad because I want to know how good they are. I assume, like in my brain, they're not good at all. It's just like a cut and paste, like
it's
the head's
done in
way
like
too
MS
big.
Paint.
Yes, that's how
Right.
I envision it. And the colleges are like, wow, it looks real to me. I know nothing about field hockey. I guess maybe are field hockey's players' heads like way too big? Because I mean, I assume that must be just a genetic thing.
Right.
Mine's long. My number 3 is along similar lines. I had just dirty recruiting in general.
Yes.
I think the ways in which college coaches, whatever programs try to recruit kids. The most obvious example is just paying them, just giving them cash, giving them house, giving them cars, giving their parents jobs, all that sort of stuff. That's kind of your run-of-the-mill cheating. Mm-hmm. The stuff that I love is when you have situations like Derrick Rose getting his SAT taken for him. Mm-hmm. You have Bruce Pearl having barbecues, and to where like the cheating, that becomes their identity. When you say Bruce Pearl, you think of a barbecue, and that's hilarious to me. That like Bruce Pearl was cheating by having a barbecue at his house, and he invited Aaron Kraft over for the barbecue. That is hysterical to me. Kelvin Sampson got fired from Indiana for making too many phone calls. And like at the time when you're going through it, you're like, yeah, that's a recruiting violation. You can't do that. But then you kind of like laugh about it that Kelvin Sampson was making phone calls. Like he was using his phone too much. That's hilarious. Right. The Louisville one with like the hookers in the dorms. Maybe that's not as funny to some people, but like I laugh forever.
But you think it's pretty,
I was like, you did what? You did what?
Right.
Like
right.
What are you doing? And you really like think about the extent that people go to give advantages to make their school be more attractive to recruits. It is hysterical, and I think this can only happen in college sports. This only happes here. Yeah,
exactly. And a key part of why it's funny is because you're talking about 17-year-old boys for the most part.
Yes.
Like you are trying. Like, what is the way you can best bribe a 17-year-old boy?
Yes, and it's not like I said, like most bribes are just like straight up cash, and that certainly does happen. But like I specifically love the dirty recruiting that is not cash based, and it's just convoluted. Like we're gonna invite you to this maybe if I invite him to this barbecue and feed him the best ribs of his life, but then that's not allowed, Bruce. You're not allowed to give he only gets 2 sides, Bruce. You threw in an extra fixin'.
It can't be Kobe beef, Bruce.
Yes, come on, Bruce. Like all those rules are hysterical to me, and anytime there's a college sports scandal of that, and especially like at the end of the day, these guys like that's what I mean. Like it's a barbecue.
Right.
Like, who cares? And it's the SAT I guess is more. The hookers probably matter. I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Semantics.
Like, yeah.
But it's also funny what isn't. Like Bruce Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh can like have a sleepover at a kid's house, and everyone's like, "That's fine."
Yeah.
You know, like what? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the second thing on my list is the story you mentioned. Is Fred Lohr's 1904 Olympic marathon, where in 1904 the Olympics were in St. Louis.
Yep.
And it was in conjunction with the World's Fair, and they had this marathon. It was 90 degrees out. It started at 3 p.m. Everybody was out of shape. They had like they had 10 Greek guys who'd never run a marathon before. Like the whole thing was a pretty janky operation. And so Lohr's got tired at mile 9, and he was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna get in a car, because cars were just on the course, so he gets in a car, rides for 11 miles. He's like waving at people. He's not pretending he's not doing it. This guy Thomas Hicks is an American who's also running the marathon. He's getting super tired, and his handlers or whatever, they give him a mix of something called strychnine. It's like a pesticide that they thought was a what is it, a stimulant.
So it was.
So they give him. They're literally giving him poison and egg whites, and they're like, run faster. Meanwhile, Fred gets out of the car 11 miles later. He finishes in under 3 hours. And Teddy Roosevelt's daughter, Alice, is waiting at the finish line, puts a wreath on him. And then everyone's like, wait a second, we just saw that guy in a car. And Laura's is like, yeah, no, I mean, I know. Like, I was joking. It was a joke. The whole thing was a joke. Like, trying to play it off as like, oh, I wasn't. Laura's was a bricklayer, by the way. And he would run at night because he wasn't a professional athlete. He was like, I'm just a bricklayer, but I'm here. So Thomas Hicks is almost dying on the course, but he hears that Fred Lortz just got disqualified for cheating. So he's like, okay, I got to keep going. So his handlers give him the same strychnine egg whites, and then they toss in some brandy, and he gets dragged over the finish line, and then he's declared the winner. Fred Lortz is banned from the sport, but then they reinstate him, and the next year he wins the Boston Marathon without cheating.
What?
Just in a wild...
He ends up winning the Boston Marathon. Wow, I didn't know all that.
Yeah, but I didn't either.
I only knew about the guy that he got in the car. I didn't know that he was actually won the Boston Marathon. That's hysterical.
Oh, the whole story is just amazing.
Sports were better back in the day, and I know that's a very cliche thing to say. Is everything was better. I was born at the wrong time. Man, things were so much better back in the day. But sports, I think definitively they were. I think these stories, if this is how modern sports worked, I would love it. I would love to cover. Same. I would love to cover a guy getting in a car during a marathon. I hope I don't know. We need more stories like this, but it's impossible now because security is so much stronger.
And there's more money in it. There's more money in it. And it's all right. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is doctoring the ball or bat in baseball. Yep. I think anytime you hear stories about what guys are doing to gain an advantage with their ball or bat, corked bats and putting too much pine tar on bats, I'm this is just funny to me. I mean, I understand the physics behind it. I understand why it's cheating and why we need to ban this, but it's also I'm not going to get mad about it because this is hysterical. Steroids are more obvious and more in your face with how you're cheating. I think this stuff is just how is rubbing too much pine tar on your bat?
That's not helping anybody. Come on. Do we really care? And are you aware that spitballs are illegal in baseball? How stupid is that? Why should you should be able to spit on the ball? I'm sorry. I don't understand why you can't spit on a ball. You should be able to doctor a ball. I think by and large. That's how I felt about Deflategate.
Yes, I think by and large, if you find a household item that costs less than $5 and you can figure out a way to use it to doctor a baseball so you could throw a better curveball, use it. I think it should be fair game. I think batters and pitchers should both be able to just add shit to their bats. I think you should be able to. You shouldn't be allowed
to take steroids as a person, but you should be allowed to give cheap steroids to the ball or the bat.
To the ball or the bat. Yeah. You should be able to if spitting on a ball makes you throw a better curveball, I'm all for it. It's spit, dude. If you produce it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well.
Right? Am I wrong, Charlotte?
No.
I know where your mind's going. You're disgusting, but I'm saying spit on the ball. Who cares? It's funny. It's it's funny. I don't see the problem.
This is a family show, Mark. Yeah, it's funny. It's good. I think you should be allowed to spit on the ball too.
I think you should be allowed to use as much pine tar as you want. I think you should be allowed to. I mean, the bat.
Pine tar is funny too because who the hell knows where you buy pine tar? Are you kidding me? What is pine tar? Do you just go to a tree and rub your hands on it?
Pine tar's literal only use at this point is baseball players. That's the only.
and they step up and their helmet's just disgusting, and you're
Craig Biggio comes to mind. His whole helmet just it just is.
I'm I don't even know what pine tar is. Except that when I was little and I'd like walk around outside with bare feet and I would get like
Pitchers used to have like sandpaper in their back pocket, and they would like. You should be able to use all of that. Why not? That's
you
how you make
can't use an
baseball
electric sander, but you can use sandpaper. That's my rule.
No, I'm saying like you can't doctor the ball. Like you have to be able to do it in the field of play. Like if you're a pitcher, you have to be able to stand on the mound and you toss the ball to him, and then you can like pull something out and like kind of that. It's got to fit in your pocket, and I don't know. I don't understand why bats, like in general, bats. They should have to be a certain size, and they can only be made of wood. But if you want to hollow them out to be able to swing, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I think we're doing too much as a baseball community. Let them play. Let them play.
Let the kids play.
Let the kids play. Throw the spitballs if you want. Anyway, that's my number 2. Go ahead.
I love it. Here for it. My number 1 is a story I came across. It's Baron Wolfgang von Kempelen's chess machine. So there's this guy, this Hungarian nobleman. His name was Baron Wolfgang von Kempelmann, and he made a chess machine. It was like an early animatronic thing. It was this huge box, and this guy would pop out of the top of it, this animatronic guy. It was like the original Chuck E. Cheese band. And he had a turban on, and they called him the Turk, which is definitely problematic today. But, you know, at the time, this was just like, and it was this thing with mechanical arms that would play chess masters in chess. And it wouldn't win all of the time, but like it would win. And people were like, this is an incredible machine. Like he made it for the princess or this queen. What was her name? Queen Maria Theresa of Austria, who turns out hated Jews, but also whipped the military into shape and gave birth to 16 kids. So it sounds like a very complicated person.
Got to hear both sides.
Okay, I'm just saying, you know. I'm Jewish for everybody who doesn't know that, just so we're putting that out there. Okay, so there's this machine, and Edgar Allan Poe even writes an essay about it, and then it turns out that the machine, there was just a guy in it. There was just a guy inside this box. There was no machine.
It was a guy
moving. It was like the Wizard of Oz, moving the arms, and that's why it would win sometimes, and it wouldn't win other times. And everyone's like, and then finally they're just guys in there. Like that's all it is. And that to me is like the most beautiful. If you can convince someone that like a person is a computer in the 1800s, that's just beautiful. I just love it.
My mind immediately goes to Cartman as Osimo in the South Park episode, which I know you're not a South Park aficionado, but
I
shout out to everybody that
South
Park that Cartman pretends to be a robot, and
or it just reminds me of like, you know, a bunch of squirrels in a trench coat pretending to be a man or something, you know, right? It's like that's funny. That's like the highest. That's like the most highbrow humor possible to me. So. Here we are.
What if that's like how it works still? Like Tesla's autopilot is just some guy named Charles who's just like in the
stuffed in the glove box.
Like he's on a lunch break. He's like, oh shit, Mike is going to autopilot. Fuck, he just gotta like sit down and like it's remotely operated.
It's an app.
It's like remotely operated.
Right?
Yeah, and he just sits at like Tesla HQ and he's on a lunch break, and Mike hits autopilot and Charles has to run back and get in his seat. He's like shit, and he's like, you know, he's got burritos spilling all over him.
There are a lot of crashes in like the first 5 seconds of autopilot because he's like, oh shit, like turning off Minesweeper.
This guy's trying to steer for you at a lab and somewhere in Southern California.
That's funny, Mark.
Trying to drive your Tesla. Maybe, I don't know. Let's look into it. We'll investigate. Speaking of driving, number 1 on my list is literally anything in NASCAR, and I'm talking literally anything. It does not matter how you cheat. It does not matter how brazen you cheat. It does not matter how unethical it is. It could put people's lives in danger. I do not care. If you cheat in NASCAR, I am not going to get upset because this sport, Charlotte, more than any sport that has ever existed in the history of, well, I don't know. That's a bold claim, but and that I know of, to my knowledge, no sport allegedly has ever had its roots in criminality more than the sport of NASCAR. This is a sport that was birthed out of bootlegging moonshine during Prohibition. Cops are chasing guys. The guys who were the bootleggers would soup up their cars to go faster to evade the cops. They all started looking around saying, which one of us is the best at this? They started having stock car races based on these cars that they're souping up to get away from the cops. I don't understand how that can be the origin of the sport. We fast forward to 2021, and if your fender is 1 degree off, you're DQ'd from the race.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
It does not make sense.
No.
Throw it out the window. I don't think there should be any rules. I think at the very least there should be 1 race a year in NASCAR NASCAR where anything goes. It's like the purge race. And if you're too scared to enter it, if there's some guy that's like, I don't know, man, this seems kind of dangerous, don't enter. That's fine. Don't enter. The rest of you guys,
but just
you
know
get to enter.
that you're a total whip.
You're a wimp, and I think it should just be like Mad Max out there, and just like guys, I don't know, put spikes on your
flamethrowers off the back.
There should be no rules. It just baffles the mind that like it was a sport based on being criminals, and whether I don't think you're gonna find anybody that's like saying that the bootleg and moonshine is the biggest sin in the world, but it still at the time was a criminal activity.
Right.
And now you fast forward to today, and you got to fit everything into, and there's so many rules, and you have to follow them all. So literally anything that happens in NASCAR that's cheating, I'm not going to get mad about it. I'm going to laugh that we've come this far, that the sport built on cheating is now trying to enforce rules.
I'm 100% on board. I actually would go so far as to say that you should legally have to have a bottle or at least a little nip of moonshine in your trunk at all times.
You should be drunk.
Yeah. And so that, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, like if something, flammable stuff with alcohol, that's probably a terrible.
We're gonna get everybody killed.
Right. Like I take that back. But I'm with you. I think that's the most beautiful. That's why I love NASCAR, because I love that that's how it started.
Yeah. Yes. That is the joy of NASCAR. And I like my idea that one race a year, anything goes. And I don't know how you, I guess, would conduct.
I think also you should have one race a year where like the drivers have to race their personal cars. And then like
I love that
it's
idea.
like the US Open, and so like random guys and women who like soup up their cars can enter, and they race normal cars against NASCAR drivers.
The Diesel's in the race.
We should have called this podcast Agents of Chaos, honestly.
I agree with you. There it is. That's our top 5. Anything else before we go? Are there any honorable mentions? Anything? How do we wrap this up?
Yeah, we did get there's normally first of all, the silent poll that we did the poll about whether we should do a segment where each of us mutes the other one, and people are overwhelmingly in favor of that segment. So we'll do that at some point. I also normally wait to read these emails that we get until the honorable mentions episode, but Mark, we got one. I'll read it when the time comes, but I do want to say that, remember the guy who wrote in, Spencer Rand, he wrote in and said, "Save my family." And his daughter, they listened together, and I called her Spensette. We got, I'm going to tease this. We got an email and the subject line was just, "I'm Spensette."
Oh.
I'm going to tease that, and we're going to read it on Monday.
To be continued.
But I will say that I emailed her back immediately, and I was like, "Look, normally I don't. Normally I wait for the show, but I wanted you to know how much I love this email, so everyone should get excited for that on Monday."
I'm excited
Tuesday.
for it. Because Lord knows I didn't read that email.
Of course you didn't. You can't read.
All right. Preakness is on Saturday. Let's all watch together. Medina Spirit going for the double crown, which is what I call it. Did you know? Here's a fun fact: the Derby, the Preakness, the Belmont, the Triple Crown, they go in reverse order of how old they are. The Derby is the newer of the three, then the Preakness. The Belmont's the oldest, believe it or not, which is weird because the Derby feels like the most prestigious. Did you know?
Yeah,
weird, right?
I didn't know that at all.
Also, the reason the Triple Crown is so hard to pull off is that the third leg is the first two, the Derby and the Preakness, are similar lengths. And then the Belmont's the long one. So like you get these horses that, if you usually win the Derby, it's not that uncommon to then win the Preakness. Right. What is uncommon is to then have a horse that can run 9 or 10
It's like someone
furlongs.
who wins the 800 and then the marathon.
Yes, and then now they have to step it up, and now let's see if you got the distance in you.
How
and a lot of these
much
horses don't.
methazone you need for that? Huh?
That's gonna be. We're upping the dose to 26 picograms for Belmont.
All right,
that's
send us
it.
emails, thepeoplesportspodcast@gmail.com. Tell us funny cheating stories, or
And
also
your
like
horse
I'd
names.
love. And your
And
horse
your
names.
horse names,
And your
yeah.
horse name. I would also love to know like lies that you guys told that you thought you could get away with in the moment. Like
That's a
Bob
good one.
Baffert being like, the
What is the
peed
most
on the head.
elaborate lie that you've told when you knew you were guilty of something?
Yeah.
And your mom caught you red-handed, and you were like, no, and then you, something like that.
I'm gonna think about
I
mine.
like that, yeah.
But I don't think it'll surprise anyone to find out I was honest to a fault. Like I probably should have lied more. All right, we'll see you Tuesday.
Hey pals, thanks for watching the People Sports Podcast YouTube channel. For more of mine and Mark's very weird rabbit holes, stick around, watch more. You can subscribe, smash that subscribe button. You know you want to. We're going to give you all the weird stuff we possibly can.